So, like, are you ready for Christmas?
I'm never ready for Christmas.
What are you gonna do when those Santas trying to get in there? Hey, hey, anybody in there? Let
Well,
me in on my cookies.
fortunately, my dog will let me know before he even hits the house. So,
Are we on, Elizabeth? Up, we're on. So enough talk about Santa, although we're gonna be talking about it until it happens because I love Christmas. Welcome to Tuesday Morning Coffee. My name's Tony Woodall, and I have with me Big Polly,
thank you for
also
having me,
known as
Paul Dillon.
Paul Dillon. And you guys, he's been on here before. You've been on here with Brad, haven't you?
No, every time I've been on here was in replace a Brad with you.
That's true. We may have a little something going on that we could start a little show on the side. And you know, lots of people did it.
Yeah.
They were in some big show. It was a hit, and then they spun off and did their own thing.
What would we call it though?
I don't know. Whatever. All the spinoffs though lasted. You know, they got one season, then they were
They were, yeah, there's a
out. So
reason for it.
we might all stay where we are. We've got a pretty good deal right now. Maybe we'll get our pay doubled next year. You know, for being on this show, being co-stars to Andy Griffith. That's what I call
Well,
Brad.
those royalty checks must be
The
pretty good for
royalty
you.
checks when they get here. When
You
they
checking
get
the
here,
mailbox every day?
I'm checking the mailbox every day. Every day. We're. I mean, I'm pumped to have Paul on here today, and I know some of us we refer to him sometimes as Big Polly, but that's not actually his name. His father did not say, "Look, I shall name him Big Polly." His name is Paul, and so when he's not got his cape on and rescuing somebody and doing all that stuff and private investigating, we just say, "Hey, Paul, how you doing? What do you want for lunch?" So today we're going to be talking about a journey you've just started,
Yes. Yes.
and but it affects everybody in the investor creator family. So I want you to really, really hone in for a little bit because we're going to be talking about buying this morning. We're going to be talking about what it's like to capture equity. Um, you guys know our basic foundations of we don't chase houses. We don't buy houses. We buy equity. So you can almost close your eyes to what the house is at times if the numbers work.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes once we figure the numbers work, then we do have to open our eyes to see if the numbers will match what we're seeing on the ground. You know, you have to see what kind of shape it's in and all that good stuff. Even sometimes what part of town it's in, what's sold around it. But the primary thing we're looking for, the foundational thing we're looking for is motivation of that seller and what do those numbers look like?
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole purpose of that triage call, you know. It's like the triage nurse at an emergency room.
Yes.
That's the first people that a patient sees. And that triage nurse is trying to find out what the numbers are, BP, heart rate, all that kind of stuff, you know. And so when the doc shows up, boom, here's the numbers on this patient. So, and you have recently started doing this, haven't you?
I have.
Tell us about that. What happened? What brought that on?
So, sure. So I've been around it now for how many years?
Well, let's see. I've been around it 84. So I think you've been around it 72 years.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, exactly. And so I've seen it. I've seen bits and pieces of it. I've come in to help clean up aftermath of certain stuff, but I never jumped
Mainly
into
me.
it. I never jumped into it. I was never talking to sellers. I was none of that. And then we went to IC in Florida.
Mm.
And
well, which one? Our last three.
Our last one.
Okay.
This last one. And summer of 22.
All right.
Because I know this will be out there.
Sounds like a Beach Boys song. Go ahead.
Yes. And a lot of people were asking me how many houses I did.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I kind of realized here I was involved in something so deep, and I wasn't carrying my part.
Right.
I didn't have experience in that. And then that weighed on me. That weighed on me because what kind of credibility do I have if I don't understand or don't have the experience in the process?
Well, I mean, I will say that even before this, what you brought to the table was strong and did have its a powerful place in what we do in investing. So I don't want you to feel like you had no credibility, but I do get what you're saying.
Right. Yeah. So I ended up becoming friends with somebody at IC. And
Other than me,
other than you, yeah, you were so busy. I think we maybe spoke once or twice
such
for a
a
couple
cheater.
minutes. I know.
I'm telling you.
There's no fidelity.
Uh,
It was Jr. Justin Rogers.
Justin Rogers.
Right, and it started. I didn't know who he was. I didn't, and that's odd because I should have known who he was. And as funny as this sounds, I got him and introduced him to the Mai Tai drink.
The old Mai Tai drink.
Mai Tai drink. Several Mai Tais later.
Now that's a health food, a breakfast drink, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That we enjoyed at nighttime on the beach.
Right.
Yeah.
Some people drink it at nighttime while walking on the
sand.
Yeah.
Which that led to the biggest judgment I feel I've ever received in my life from James Garland.
Well, let's
the
hear
next
that.
morning.
Let's hear that. James, hold up. This is James who is going to throw a drinking judgment on somebody. Is that what I'm understanding?
He did. Because the next morning, Justin and I went to the bar and got a Bloody Mary. Well,
yes.
That's what you do. You get a Bloody Mary
exactly
in the morning.
Right.
And I bring it back into the conference. And I sit down and I'm drinking it. James looks at me. I said, "Did you want one?" I was going to go back down to the basement and go get him one. And he's like, "At 10 o'clock in the morning?" And I just shut up and I just took my straw and mixed up my drink some more and took a drink and just paid attention. And to this day, I don't feel I've ever been more judged in my life.
Well, I mean, I get it because James has some standards, and he would never start before 11:15 in the morning.
Probably not.
All right, back to JR.
So we just kind of hit off a friendship, and we both have a very odd sense of humor, and we just became friends. Unique, yes. We became friends, and then he had some parts of the business that he just doesn't like.
Right.
And those are parts that, frankly, don't bother me.
Yeah.
And the part he likes, I don't.
Uh-huh.
Right? So we just talked and we kept talking and we kept joking, and then we said, "What if?" And then our talks, our jokes, our what ifs actually produced into let's give it a try.
All right.
And so I came to help him do acquisitions.
Okay.
And we did our first 30 days was October.
Okay.
Was our first 30 days.
October.
We did 50 something leads.
Okay.
And we put
I want to say 55 leads.
We put about 7 under contract.
7 contracts.
And, we've booted a couple.
You booted a couple?
Booted a couple.
Wound up with 5?
Yes. And, something I learned, and I go into this now or later, but to bring James back up again is the power of negotiation when it comes to the home inspection report. That's probably the second most powerful tool we have.
Okay. No, I agree. People think that inspection is an expense. Oh man, they're so expensive. Like if they're in a big city, they can be $350, $400. An inspection is not an expense. It is an investment.
Mm-hmm.
When you invest into an inspection, you're going to find that your return on that, because it takes you back into renegotiation, is so much more than you could ever imagine. Then you could just like have that conversation because you've got actual proof in your hand.
Well, 3 things are going to happen, right?
Oh, hold up. Write this down, folks. Anytime you got 3 things, you got to write it down. Go ahead.
1.
Yeah.
You're going to realize you got a good deal going on.
Good deal.
Right?
Yeah. Confirmation on a good deal.
Number 2, you just realize that there's more problems than what the seller knew about.
Right.
So now you have a very powerful tool to go back and negotiate.
So more problems is a tool. And then 3,
It was a very cheap insurance policy to get you out of a problem.
Yep. It was a cheap insurance a cheap insurance
Policy.
to get you out of a problem,
Yes.
and or it is a great renegotiation tool to get you into deeper equity.
Well, that's number two, right? Right. Number one, it shows you either got a good deal. Number two, it's a tool that shows you that you can go back in and renegotiate because there's problems that they didn't realize that were discovered. And I like to say I've yet to see a home inspection report either through this business or my own home buying experiences that doesn't find a problem. It's gonna find a problem. I mean, when you're paying somebody $300, $400, $500 to go find a problem, if they come back with no problems, they didn't do their job. Because even on a brand new build, you're gonna have problems, right?
Right.
So, but you go in, and then the saving you the cheap insurance policy, and we experienced that in Cordon, Indiana. That home inspection report was pretty bad, and we were at the brink of, like, title was open. I mean, we were moving forward, and that came back, and there was some discrepancies, and so we sent a foundation company out there, and there was conflicting between the two. So we went back out there, and JR brought his contractor from here and paid him to go up to Cordon, Indiana, and we looked at it, and then we were able to tell that a tree root literally pushed one whole side of the house in and just messed up the whole entire house on its foundation to where it was a complete knockdown. There was no saving this house. If we had not had done that home inspection report, it would have been a problem. By the way, we did renegotiate the price on that house off of the initial report. And then when we went out there just to go put our eyes on, because we had conflicting statements, that's when we realized this was a no deal for us.
So that's powerful. That is powerful. And I'm looking at your numbers right quick. So 55 leads, 7 contracts. So I know you wound up bumping 2.
Yes.
But on the front end, before you wound up bumping 2, it took you 8 leads to get each contract.
Yeah. That's correct, because Justin and I just talked about that this morning.
Okay. And of those 7 contracts, even if you only average $60,000 profit in each one, which I know that fella, and I doubt very seriously he only averaged $60,000 profit in each one. But even if you only average $60,000 profit in each one, that's saying that of those deals, half of them are mediocre deals and half of them are normal deals. We're not even talking about 100,000 and up deals. We're just talking about the difference between mediocre and normal. You still would have made that month 420 grand in equity. You have captured 420 grand. Now, I know that since he called two, he felt real good about his 5.
We very conservative on how we approach things.
I'm aware.
And we have right now, as of this morning, we have 10 on our books.
But not in October.
No.
Yeah, I'm just dealing with October.
Okay. Yes. So some of those, I'm going to be surprised if all of them go. Now, it's not that they're not deals. And there are people in this group that would do those deals all day long, but they're not deals that are going to fit our model, what we're doing. Right. But they'll be perfect deals for a lot of other people. And
when you say that, because we're going to be live here, does that mean you're going to somehow pitch those out on the table?
Funny you should say that.
You should auction them off.
Yeah. So we actually have talked about that to the group, right? Because we both have taken so much from the group that we want to be able to put it back into the group.
Nice.
So we I don't think we've talked with Brad about it yet, but we definitely hey Brad, here you go. We definitely have had discussions and proposed it to a couple people just to get some feedback on potentially offering those one way or another to somebody.
Okay. I mean, that's a good deal. When you capture equity in 7 deals, and then you decide, hey, 5 of these stand out. 2 of these right now, we don't have to have.
That's correct.
because these fibers are good, and you capture between 4 and 500,000 in equity, and now you're at 10 that you feel real good about.
9.
9.
We have 10 that we have. One of them I'm getting ready to go do a field punt today, I think, on.
So you've got 9 you feel real good about from October 1st.
Mm-hmm.
So 6 weeks.
That's correct.
9 in 6 weeks.
It's so predictable that I can tell typically within the first 3 to 4 minutes if I'm going to have an agreement signed or not.
Now, I'm not going to ask you questions about your ad spend, okay, because that's private between you guys. But obviously, y'all are spending some money on ads. 55 leads in the month of October.
Yes.
Is a good return. The month that Brad spent, because he's already been public about this, so the month September of this year, about 8 weeks ago, when he spent, he put 15 under contract that month. Did not wind up taking all 15, but they were all deals that could have been done.
Mm-hmm.
People would have done them. So 15 deals. It took 14 leads to get 15 deals. So you got about 210 leads for the month. Said no to 195 of them. You know, sometimes that gets somebody that's just starting, it gets them really down because they feel like all they're getting are, they call them crap leads, you know, or bad leads. But, you know, James and Kevin went through 195 calls of coming to the conclusion that this won't work to get to those 15.
Yes.
To get to those 15. Now, Brad's been public and said he spent a little over $30,000 in leads that month.
We're nowhere near that.
Yeah. He spent a little over $30,000 in ad spend. Someone yesterday, it happened to me on the phone, and a guy's talking to me about getting into the program, and I think he'll do great. He goes, 30,000. And then he goes, wow, man, I got scared fast, didn't I?
It's all relative.
It is relative. I mean, he captured, in those 15 leads, he captured a little under 1.2 million in equity.
Mm-hmm. So would you trade $30,000 for 1.2?
So if we went to lunch today and I said, I tell you what, you bring me a check for 30 grand and I'll give you one for 1.2 million, would you make the change?
I wouldn't even. I couldn't write fast enough.
I know it. But when you're looking at it from the front end and it's not happening yet, it feels like a massive. Well, anyway, so let's go back to what you're doing with JR. You guys are working together on this thing and you're handling the calls. Tell me what you're finding out about the script. Is it hard? Is it difficult?
No. I was trying to think of one word to summarize it. Necessary, I think is a word.
Necessary.
I know that when you start to read the script, my first thought was, this is going to sound like I'm a robot. I'm reading off of this. So I locked myself in my office by myself, made sure no one could hear me, and I read it out loud. Because if you know my family, if they heard me reading the script out loud to myself, they're going to take me to task, right?
Yeah.
So I read it till I could get to a point where I could make it sound like it wasn't so robot.
Okay.
And then I intentionally messed it up when I was talking to people. I talked lower, I talked softer. I intentionally messed it up. So that was my overcompensation to make it sound like I wasn't reading a script, and it started working.
Okay.
And then I thought about it. I said, when we talk, how often do we just talk on a straight? We stumble our words, we mess up our words, we bounce right back to a thought, we overtalk our own self, right? So why wouldn't I do that when I'm using the script?
Okay.
And what that's done is that allows the conversation to grow naturally. And when it grows naturally, then it's going to naturally start branching off into its own. And then we come with the issue of, how do we get back to the script? And this is what I love about the script. It's broken down where I can take the conversation where we left off, whatever little sidebar conversation we had, I can redirect it right back to where it is.
I like it.
Right. So James, why don't you tell me a little about what you got going on with the house? You know, any issues with it, any repairs, fun stuff that you've done with it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes in from there. So what I did is, you know, when you go to like a hotel lobby or a restaurant and they'll have those resin holders they'll have a menu or here's the Wi-Fi password. So I got 2 of those and I put them on my desk because the script is 2 pages, right? So it's on my desk and it sits right under my computer monitors.
Yeah. So you've got the script right in front of you.
I absolutely do the whole time. And if I'm in my car, I have an iPad holder, and then I have an app, script app or a Notability or something, one of those, and I have it saved. So all I do is I open my iPad, boom, there it is. I can be on my Bluetooth reading the script while I'm in my car.
I can't, you know, it's been extremely hard for me to get folks to just, like, if you walked into Kevin's office right now, on his little holder, it looks like a choir, where you put your you put your music, you know, and he has this piece of paper that is torn and wrinkled around the corners and the edges. It was actually the first script that Brad ever handed me, and it's got all my original little notes on it and whatever. Kevin uses that one now. I keep one with me. So because, you know, I don't do PPC because I don't have time for it.
Right.
But I always have my script with me just in case. And I try to tell people in the beginning, you're on the phone. No one knows you're reading a script. If you have to just read it word for word for the next 10 years, and you bought the stew out of equity, what does it matter?
Well, so I want to point this out because here's one of the dangerous traps. Think of the game telephone. Remember in school when the teachers, they start teaching you about the dangers of gossip, and you play the telephone game, right? Yep. One person, the teacher would plant it in this kid's ear, and then they just keep going all the way around until it got to the last kid. He'd say it out loud, and everybody could hear just how off it was from the original. That's one of the pitfalls of getting off the script or getting comfortable with the script. And so I want to say, don't get comfortable with the script.
That's right.
I've caught myself in the past month and a half getting comfortable with the script and having to stop and run back in my office, sit back down in my chair, and go right back to the script where I got to be to bring it on. Because what's going to happen is we become so comfortable with that script that we start doing our own version of telephone game because we leave something out. And that one thing we left out, everything in that script prompts the next thing in that script, which ultimately gets you to the agreement signed, right? So when we cut something out or we alter it, it changes the path. Like I can't build 3 of my walls at 15 feet and then build the 4th wall at 12 feet and figure out why my house isn't right.
Or even 15-1.
Exactly. Something like that, right? Back to that old. So most people don't know I have an aviation background. Love planes, love to fly. I got 100 hours post solo, right? So there's that old thing. If I'm going to start off in Los Angeles, I want to go to New York City. If I'm off by 1 degree, I'm in South Carolina. And I just didn't arrive where I was getting at all. Because the further you get from your starting point, the further off you're going to be. And it's the script is the same way.
That is so
right.
Good.
So I don't care. I guarantee if Brad was going to go sit down and do PPC calls, Brad's going to have that script in front of him because there's a lot of power in that script. And if I didn't have that script, I wouldn't have gotten to do as many agreements that we've done in 45 days. It's because of that script. And Justin will go back and listen to him. Right. And I want that criticism. And I've even sent some to Brad to get taken over the hot coals. He didn't do it. Right.
He will though.
Yeah. Probably now.
He will. Trust me.
It was like one of my first probably 3 or 4 that I did. But the power in that script, I'll sing that like it's the gospel.
What he used to do to me when I was doing his buying, taking his lead calls for him. This was way back 8-9 years ago. He would, if he knew I was getting off script, he'd just say, "Hey, I'm taking all the leads for next week," and then I would sit there every day, knowing that he's doing that script work, he's doing it right, and the like at first, the first couple of days, I'm like pissed about it, Then that third day, I'm like, well, I mean, maybe it's because he's already gotten 2 under contract, By that fourth day, I'm like, dang, I am not sticking to the script.
Well, just as humans, we're lazy.
Yeah,
it's nature, right? It's natural. Yeah. We want to find. We're like water looking for the crack in the dam. So that script, I will say, I will preach the gospel, and then I'll preach that script.
All right. Well, anything else that you can think of right now that's being helpful about your script time, what you and JR are doing, and as it relates to you being on taking those leads?
Just having the resources that we can go into. If I get stuck with something, being able to go on the Facebook page and type in whatever problem I'm having or a keyword, and being able to find other advice that's on that Facebook page. Being able to call other people and talk to them. Right. It's like having a team.
Right.
Without having that team.
So because, like, for instance, because James does this a lot, you have the ability to go through that Facebook group, make contact with James and say, hey, I'm getting hung up on this right here.
Oh, I'll call James. I've called James. Right. I've had some.
But most of our folks don't have
that ability, right?
So is that how they could touch base with James? Then they could get into the Facebook group.
Absolutely, absolutely. He's a wealth of information. He really is.
Kevin as well. Kevin does those triage calls, man, and Kevin's got this soft voice, and a lot of people would think, well, he doesn't carry a big presence, but the power is not in volume of how you speak or whether you're going to be pushy or not on the call. The power is in that script. It is laid out with a purpose.
No, these are people who have a problem. They're calling you to help them with their problem.
Right.
You should be mindful of that and not be loud. I'm loud. You know that. I walk in this building, I'm loud. People know me, right? So I have to bring that down like a lot when I talk to somebody. And because I think the last thing we want to do is bring the chipper happiness into a bummer situation.
Right.
And know your audience.
No, yes.
I had a lady yesterday, and I'm not kidding. This lady offended me. And that's not necessarily an easy thing to do. She was so fed up with her own kids and their drug problems and them pawning their kids off onto her that she wants to sell her house just to get away from all of them. And some of the things she said, I'm not going to repeat because it is just blew my mind. But then we have another lady and her husband in Florida. He was involved in a motorcycle accident. Yeah. He's having to travel 2 hours one way. And we wanted to help him, but there was really nothing we could do. The equity wasn't there. But you know what was there? The cash flow on a sub 2. And it's good. And so we talked to her about that. And Justin went back and listened to it. I said, you got to go listen to this call. And he did. He wanted to post it. And I'm not going to post it because to me, I just feel like I'm being boastful or whatever. And I don't want to be that way. He was like, no, this really needs to get posted so people could see. Well, I put a thing on my Facebook page. I think I even put it on the group page. It's like being able to hear somebody break down in tears because you were able to bring them a solution to their problem. And this lady, we literally were making it so that her 2-year-old daughter and her husband, who's severely injured and rehabbing, could move somewhere else and get the medical treatment that he needs in PBC. But they couldn't sell their house because they were upside down. They would have to come out like $17,000 out of pocket. They couldn't do it. So what were they faced with? Walking away from their home and getting sued? Or the solution we brought? The solution we brought this lady and her husband to tears. And now she calls me multiple times a day to make sure it's real.
Well, it's exciting. I'm glad you're doing this. I'm glad.
I wish I would have jumped on the boat so long ago.
That's all right. That's all right. Look, it is what it is, and you're there now. So some other exciting news is that you're starting a weekly Wednesdays at 10 a.m. if I understand right, a group Zoom call.
That's correct. Yes.
All right, and that starts tomorrow.
Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.
Tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Central Time. It's for investor creator apprentices only. And you go, well, that's not fair. Well, I understand that. We'd like for the whole world to hear him, and all the rest of the world has to do is get involved in Investor Creator. And you can all hear Big Polly every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Central Time. So tell me what that's going to be about.
So the goal with this is really to educate the group, the members of IC, teaching them how to address certain issues, how to deal with certain things, the tricks that I use when somebody calls and says, hey, I got a seller's ghosted me. I'm going to teach those tricks on what I do, so that it's kind of like teach a man to fish or give him a fish, right? It just brings more value to teach people how to fish. And we'll always be there to help give them a fish when they need it. That's still, they're going to be there, but we're going to teach you how to approach liens. We're going to teach you how to approach conflict. We're going to teach you how to approach ghosted sellers, or sellers who all of a sudden want to become a problem, or dealing with heirs, right? But it's not like we're not going to sit there and just do it as a teaching class. We're going to bring you your problem. Yeah. Let's talk about it, right?
Okay. Just like Brad does. Hey, bring your leads in.
Yep.
Okay, bring your problems in. Let's walk through it, so the next time you'll know how to do it yourself.
That way everybody gets to learn from everybody's
That's right.
stuff
That's
in a real life situation.
Yep, that's going to be great.
I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you for having me.
It's getting cold outside, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very cold.
Is that a flannel?
It is.
I like it. It's strong. I saw you clean your glasses on it a little bit earlier. It's got that neat little thing.
It's got that microfiber thing on the inside.
Elizabeth, thank you for hanging out with us this morning. All right, then. Guys, we'll see you next week. Brad will be back with us, and have a great week.